The Fish's Bargain, Episode 3. One night, Cumix awoke with a fever and decided to cool himself in the river beside his altar. Here he is. He's got his little cup with him. And he's thinking, perhaps a stronger draught of shotl will ease my burning brow. So he's prepared an extra strong draught. And to protect himself from crocodiles, he retreated into the cave formed by the mangrove roots. So here he is in the cave. Hello, Chalk. You can have the rest of this shotl, doing me no good. So he's still a little sick. And as he's throwing it in the water, the fish says, grind it into a paste. What? Did you speak? Fish says, grind the cacao into a paste to concentrate its powers. Also, it'll be easier for me to eat. So apparently fish don't like this gritty stuff as much as they like a little goopy little nugget. Who are you? What do you want? The fish says, I am indeed Chalk, the long-lipped god. I'm glad you're here, friend, because I have important news. Tonight, a terrible storm will strike your village. Through his fog of feverish surprise, Cumix had a single thought. There he is, back there in the cave. Chalk, if I make a more suitable offering, can you move the storm away from my village? The fish says, I'm not able to... It looks like it says, I am notable. But I am not able to change the future. But if you bring shotl the way I ask, I will bestow upon you another boon. So, Cumix hurries back to his home. Look, these little dust clouds behind his scurrying little feet. And he's waving his hands. Wake up, wake up! I received a prophecy. And everybody's sort of yawning and little, what? Friends, listen to the prophecy of Chalk. We must all pack up and move further inland. A big storm is coming. And they look terrified. Well, these guys look these two people, I don't know. They're doubtful, but these look surprised and worried. And she looks horrified. Look, her mouth is wide open. Rain God has bestowed a boon. He warned me personally of a storm that will destroy our village tonight. And look, he's very much more confident now. He's like, She's asking, is this possible? And this guy says, best not take any chances. So the villagers spent the rest of the day packing their food, water, and belongings. See, they've got their water in gourds, and they've built little saplings into cages to protect the young maize plants, and they staked down their vegetables, and they got baskets full of food to take with them. And it looks like all their baskets and water are down here in this little corral. They're back here. By nightfall, every villager was safe in the high ground hunting camp. So you can see that there's taller trees back here, and they've got a stronger shelter because, of course, they don't want branches falling on them during a storm. So, and here's a map I have conveniently placed here for you to locate the inland hunting camp. So down here is Cumix's altar. Here's the Atlantic Ocean. Here's the coastline. The mangrove swamp is speckled, and it's got mangrove, sumac, and elderberry. And the hardwood forest is made more of mahogany, oak, and calabash. And here's the river feeding down the swamp. Here's the river. I mean the village right next to the river, which is more convenient. But up here, it's safer. Oh, and here's the storm. Look at this. This is awful. Look at that. There's a branch snapping there, cracking. This one's cracking, and that one's snapping. Look, the wind is whooshing and it's screeing through the trees. This would scare the living daylights out of anybody. And in the morning, look at that. This is their village, and the only one left is Cumix's little altar. And see, one of them is even saying, "It's the only hut that survived." Look, I think it's that guy, and that one's just celebrating and happy. They're picking up sticks. Somebody's bending over getting ready to pick up a stick. This one's commenting that it's the worst storm ever. So the altar still stands. And Kumik says, "Let us pause to show our gratitude." This woman's saying, "Praise Chalk." The other one's saying, "I just can't believe it." And they're all standing around, and two little kids are playing in the background. And look, there's Sakchen with his little, you can tell his arms kind of curled up like that. So now we get a closer look at this altar. It's called Wakachan, and here's a little sidebar that explains the wood sculpture on Kumik's altar is the representation of the Milky Way, what his culture has named Wakachan, or the Tree of Life. So to them, Milky Way looks like a tree, and they've built a representation of it here out of wood. And they have this altar built of stones that they can put their stuff on in thanks. And Kumix is doing his priestly duties, saying the prophecy has been fulfilled. Thank you, Chalk. And here's something to note. It's just an interesting relationship between Kumix and the altar and Chalk, the god, because Kumix is actually speaking to Chalk at the river as a fish. He's actually talking to Chalk. He could go over there and ask him and thank him himself. But instead, I think this altar is for the village. They need a representation because they can't all talk to Chalk the way he does. So that's an interesting relationship between the village and Kumix and the god. This is sort of the portal, we could say. Over the next few days, everyone was busy rebuilding the village. Villagers had braved many storms and had rebuilt their huts many times, but this time was special. They had been spared by the gods. It was a blessed event. And see, here's a representation of all of them doing their work. They're chopping down more trees, or chopping up the ones that probably have fallen. And this one's grunting, trying to move a giant branch. This one's huffing, carrying all the stuff that their roofs are made of. I can't think of the word. Rushes. And they're thatching. See? Thatch. And here's the one weaving. So when construction was complete, Kumix returned to his hut. His new mission was to experiment with sugar per Chalk's direction. After trying various plants, Kumix found that cane provided the most versatile material. Cane is just like a tall grass that grows down there. So it was available to them. It combined easily with cacao mash. So here is a little description of how you make shotl. So we cut down some cane, and then we smash up the stalk. It looks like, see, he's got a little device here made of two logs, sort of smashing it like that. And then use those same two logs to crush together using torquing a rope to squeeze out. You press out the juice, and you heat the juice until all the water evaporates, and you crunch the resulting crystals into powder. And this is their mortar and pestle. This is what they use. It's a little stone platform that's kind of like this, and the pestle is just another rock. So they use that same rock to grind the roasted cacao nibs into a paste, and then grind the sugar into the paste and combine with herbs, roots, and blood until it becomes a paste. So this is definitely not chocolate. This is shotl. This is a magical substance. And you put that paste on a big leaf and let it harden into a kind of a bark. And so there we go. There's that little nugget that we saw on the front page. There it is. So there it is again. The product is twice as potent as his shotl beverage. And to test it, Kumix gave a piece of it to Sakchen. And he says, "Don't worry, it brings strong visions. Here, let it dissolve against the roof of your mouth and wash it down with some mate." Mate is just a tea. So here's Sakchen, the little boy. He's just given him this powerful, magical substance, and he says, "This slimy piece of bark, it's bitter and oily. Ugh, it tastes like river water." And then a few minutes later, he moves his hand and he sees tracers. And he says, "Oh, butterfly hands," because it looks like his hands have become butterflies. And Kumik says, "I told you, it's going to be a long night for you, Sak Chen." So we're seeing a side of Kumik's that is probably not appropriate. You shouldn't give children drugs, but this is a different time and place, and this is his acolyte. This is a person who's going to need to be able to handle this kind of stuff, because that's how they speak to their gods. So what is going to happen next? I will wait till next week. And as you see, there's staples in the middle of this, so I'm in the very center of the comic. So next week we'll start on the last half of this comic, and I hope that you return to enjoy it.